call the meeting to order. This is Monday, November the, no it isn't. This is Monday, December the 6th. The time is 6:30 p.m. and this is a meeting of the Committee of the Whole Administration and Finance for the month of December. And in December we have a short schedule of meetings. And basically, it'll just be the two meetings in December. Today's meeting of the Committee of the Whole Administration and Finance, and then next Monday, the council meeting, which will be December the 13th. So the meeting has been called to order. The chair is looking for a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. This chair have a mover. I have Cameron moving. Does he have a seconder, please? I have Mr. Robertson second. You've heard the motion. Those in favor? Aye. Motion is carried. The agenda is approved as accepted. Item number 3 on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Does anyone have a pecuniary interest here this evening?
No, not me.
None declared, and the chair and the minutes will so reflect. And number 4 on the agenda is business arising from the previous Committee of the Whole meeting minutes, and that was the meeting of November the 8th, and those minutes were circulated as part of the agenda package. Does anyone have any business arising from that meeting? If there's no business arising from the meeting, I'm about to move on. I hear none. So I'm going now then to item number 5 on the agenda, which is delegations and presentations. And we have none this evening. And so that moves us then to item number 6 on the agenda, which is the various discussion items. And again, we have none. So moving to item number 7, which is the action and information items. The first action item or information item is number 7A, which deals with an application for severance at 9161 County Road 44. So there is a briefing note in the package. And the chair is open for discussion, and depending on how the discussion goes, I'll call for the recommendation to come forward when I hear how the discussion is going. So is there any discussion on this application for severance at 9161 County Road 44, LaPorte? I hear none. I hear none. We do have quite an extensive briefing note there. That has been circulated, and the briefing note comes with a recommendation that committee recommend, that council recommend in favor of severance application B-16421. There's no discussion. Chair is looking for a motion to send the recommendation to council. I have Deputy Mayor Deschamps moving. Does he have a seconder? Councillor Hunter seconding. Now, is there any discussion on the motion before the chair? None. In that case, I'm going to call the question on the recommendation. Those in favor? Aye. Motion is carried. Deals with that item number 7A. Let's get my paperwork in order here. So there's quite an extensive package with that severance application. And just for the benefit of the folks in the gallery, and it's nice to see that we have some folks here with us this evening. But just to explain the process, the application for severance actually goes to county, comes to us for a recommendation. We make this committee, normally it's Councillor or it's Deputy Mayor Deschamps' Community Development Committee that deals with severance applications, but they're not meeting in December, so it came to this committee tonight. And then this committee takes that recommendation to council, which is next Monday night. And if council approves the recommendation from this committee, that gets forwarded to county. And it's actually county who is the land division body for the United Counties. So United Counties Planning Division actually approves the severances. So I'm on 7B, which is a request for road closure and conveyance for Dumbriel. And again, there is an extensive briefing note with this application now. This one, I'm thinking I'm gonna have Mr. Grant speak to this one because it is a fairly comprehensive issue. So Mr. Grant, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Community Development Coordinator has done a fair bit of work in preparing this, so I will defer to her to provide you a little bit more detailed overview.
And now we do have an extensive package, so over to the Community Development Coordinator.
Thank you, CIO and Mr. Mayor. We've received a request from Mr. Dunreal on behalf of the property owner, requesting that we stop at close and convey for road allowances near County Road 44 and Gooden Road. Those road allowances are shown on plan 15R5311 that's provided in the package. And it's tough to see the numbers on there, but they're highlighted in yellow, parts 3, 6, 9, and 11. So our bylaw says that requests to stop up close and convey road allowances will only be considered where it doesn't landlock a parcel, which it doesn't. Quite often these requests would be that the road allowance is divided in half, and half of it would be to the one property owner on that side, the other half would go to the property owner on that side. Not relevant here because it's the same property owner on both sides of all of these road allowances. So the staff recommendation is that committee recommend that council agree to stop up and close the end of the road allowances identified on that plan, and that the land be conveyed to the owner of 7022 to 7030 County Road 44, which is in Dumbriel. I should have mentioned the bylaw. Our bylaws also require us to advertise the intent to stop up close and convey the allowances, so we need to advertise that as well.
Okay, so I'm gonna open the floor for discussion, but first I just have a quick question for either the CIO or back to the Community Development Coordinator. So before we pass depending on what this committee does here tonight in terms of a recommendation, before we pass the bylaw that would stop up, close, and convey, do we have time to get the notice, the required public notice in the papers prior to the council meeting of December the 13th? Or is it anticipated that would be done between now and the January meeting, and that the bylaw would come forward at the January meeting?
So through the chair, we would advertise and we would plan to have the bylaw come forward at the January meeting.
Okay, so there's lots of time for the public notice then.
Correct.
Okay, but as the Community Development Coordinator has already indicated, this unopened road allowance, which basically just exists on paper at this point in time, there's no real issues because the same owner on both sides of the piece. So chair's open for discussion here. Councillor Hunter first, please.
Well, I think one thing should be noted for this road goes, it's really a nothing road. It could never really be opened unless that owner wants to open it, because it really doesn't go anyplace, only through their property. So
that's a good road we're talking about.
No, it goes from the Gooden Road and extends over as far as the river bank. It cuts up across to 44. It's an old road allowance that goes through there, but it's just a work field.
Right.
There's no place for it to go. The owner definitely is never going to do anything on the agricultural land. I believe it's owned agriculture, isn't it, Wendy?
We've lined this on rural.
Rural, but we all know the owner, and they have no intention of.
But it goes from Gooden right to the river? Yeah. Very interesting.
It's an extension of the road. It's a dead end road that comes in by off 21. The two houses were Ernie Carson and Hubert Way built the two houses back in there.
I think from the briefing note, it goes back to the land registry system, which is ancient to say the least. So very interesting kind of situation.
Complicated thing because it's never done, because it's passed through 3 generations of the family, and it just never got
cleaned up.
Never got cleaned up. But he thought it had been cleaned up. Hal thought it had been cleaned up before, but then when they sent it to the state, they found that it never had been cleaned up, so.
And there's always a comment, right?
Amazing, that's what we're here for, to deal with these kind of problems and fix them. Any further discussion before I call the question on the recommendation? Okay, so at this point, I don't have the recommendation actioned in front of me. I need a mover and a seconder to bring the recommendation forward. Okay, Councillor Hunter moving, does he have a seconder? I heard Councillor Cameron. And so the recommendation is that committee recommends that council agree to stop up and close the unopened road allowances identified as parts 3, 6, 9, and 11 of Plan 15R 5311, and that the land be conveyed to the owner of 7022-7030 County Road 44 in accordance with Municipal Act Section 35, and that the intended conveyance be publicized through the township's website and local newspaper. That's the motion on the floor. Further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And so now I'm at 7C, and 7C is the coming forward from the previous committee meeting, the food cycler household organic waste diversion. And just as a way of introducing this topic, and I know that there is a recommendation with it, but just by way of introducing it, I just want to indicate to members of council that I did write an article for the South Grenville Beacon, which was published on December the 2nd, outlining the opportunity for householders, if I put it that way, to buy these machines, if I can call it that, at the reduced price of $150 if council enters into this program. And I did, in my article, ask for the two important questions. The first question is, the pitch was that we would buy 100 of these units at a cost, I believe, of $10,000. Got that right, Mr. CIO?
I'll let the treasurer speak to that. She has done a fair bit of work on preparing this item as well.
Okay.
Certainly, through the chair, the initial cost of the units would be $25,000, and we would have shipping charges plus HST. The net to the township would actually be $13,560.
$13,560?
Yeah.
And then we would, and that would give us 100.
Yeah, that would be a quantity of 100, and we would sell the units for 150 plus HST, which is 169.50 to a resident.
And so 169.50 can't be $1,169.50. So out of 100 units, we would be recouping, how much would that be of the 13,000?
13,000 is what we pay.
13,000 is what we pay.
30,500 is what the cost.
Yeah, the total with HST and shipping is 30,510.
Oh, yes, okay, I see. So the question is, will we get 100 takers, or will we be stuck with 100 units? So floor is open for discussion. I don't see much discussion. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, well, Mr. Mayor, if people go to buy a good composter that doesn't do anywhere near what this one does, they're going to pay close to $100 for it anyway. And then they have to tramp through the snow and fill it through the winter, or if they do that. This is something that can be kept in the house, in the garage, in the basement, and can truly get rid of household organic waste. I would personally buy one myself. So you're only left with 99. But I do think with the proper we'll say advertising feedback to the residents, I think it would be a commodity that would be sellable.
Okay, so I have Counselor Dillabaugh, then Counselor Hunter, then Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, on your article that you wrote, have you got any responses back from?
No, and thanks for asking that question. So the paper came out on December the 2nd. This is December the 6th. That's only 4 days.
Right.
And I haven't received a single recognition of the article. One of the things that I'd like to suggest is perhaps we just defer this decision for a month, or maybe even until next week, just to see, because personally, well, I'll let my personal comments come last in the discussion. So the answer to your question is no, I haven't had any response at this point.
Right. I'm agreeable with Councilor Cameron. I think it's an excellent idea. I have a little side business of composting. I mean, this year is just great, and you still have your product that you put on your flowers, plants, indoor or outdoor to boot instead of buying fertilizer. And you're getting away with so much waste that would be going out the landfill. So I'm 100%. I think we wouldn't have any problem selling 100 of them. I don't want to defer this till next week.
Okay, so you're not in favor of deferral, Councilor Hunter?
Well, I think it's maybe a good idea, but I just don't like the product. They only will hold 2 liters. And then it takes 48 hours to get rid of that 2 liters before you can put 2 more liters in it. But what are you doing in the day in between? Most households don't have more than 2 liters of
You have a
waste.
and you have a waste container just for that you put in it, and like any composting,
Yeah, but
you put waste on your.
Okay, through the chair, please.
it just keeps building up to me, and the fact on top of it, as I mentioned, the thing, like you gotta change the filters every 3 months at $25 every time. That's $100 a year for filters on top of that. I just don't think people are gonna buy them. I just don't think if they come out, as I said, in my business in the spring in the restaurant, if they had some, I'd buy one in a minute. If they had something that would hold 2 gallons or something of stuff at a time in it, that could compost it over maybe 48 hours might be something to look into, but I just don't think, and the biggest part of our township being rural, I just don't think we're going to sell 100 tons. So.
Okay, and Deputy Mayor.
One point for clarification with Councillor Hunter's comments before I start. And Amy's on there, and my understanding was that it took less than 24 hours. You plugged it in at night and it worked, and it was done in the morning. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Hang on just 1 second. So to the clerk, this is the representative. I'll put the question then, since that person is present.
Just put her mic on.
Yeah, you put your mic and your camera on there, Amy. I didn't realize you were present. Welcome. Okay.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So I'd like to get a clarification on Councillor Hunter's comments.
Yes, thank you. It takes 4 to 8 hours. So it's not 48 hours, but it's 4 to 8 hours, depending on what you put into the bucket.
Okay, now is it correct that the capacity of the bucket is 2 liters? Is that part correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, all right, so we have some correction there. All right, so back to the Deputy Mayor.
Okay. Thanks, Amy. So you commented that you hadn't heard anything back from the article that you wrote on December 2nd to the Beacon. I mean, do we know how many Edwardsburg Cardinal residents actually read the Beacon?
No.
You know, I certainly haven't seen your article anywhere, and I haven't seen it posted on social media, which is where most I think actually pick it up. So I'm not sure that readership of the Beacon is actually a fair judgment on this. I mean, this is modernization money. It takes, from what I've been reading, I think the latest statistic that I saw was 58% of garbage but it could be up to 80% is actually wet garbage that can be recycled in this machine. We wouldn't, you don't lose the energy value out of it. It's certainly something moving forward as a municipality that doesn't have the ability to do green recycle any other way. This is a fantastic thing to give citizens the opportunity to do green recycle when they wouldn't have that opportunity easily any other way. So, and it uses modernization money, so it's not really a cost to Edwardsburg Cardinal taxpayer dollars. So having said that, certainly in favor of 100 of them. If we end up with an inability to sell them, I'm sure we could put some form of a marketing campaign on later, or we could certainly, I'd even buy one to give away, so that we get people using them. So in support of 100, let's get it done.
Okay. So who has? Oh, Amy, your hand is up. Did you want to speak? I'll entertain a speak.
Yes, hello, thank you. Just a small comment. We did receive email on our end from citizens of Edwardsburg Cardinal. So we weren't aware of that article, but perhaps it was because of your article that somebody reached out to us. They were wondering about the start of our pilot project. And another comment is that we waived the restocking fee for Edwardsburg Cardinal. So if you did not are unable to resell or sell all of the 100 units, we would take them back at no charge. Usually there's a $25 restocking fee, but we waived that, and it's also in the proposal as well. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, that's 2 points. I want to just get a couple of points in here. Number one, the reason I don't post my articles on the Facebook page or distribute them to my database is because I like to give the South Grenville Beacon an opportunity to have first production of the article. So that publication was out on December the 2nd, and I'll follow that up now this week by distribution to my database. I have quite a number in my database and on my Facebook page. The same article will appear in both places, giving people a much broader exposure than they get through the South Grenville Beacon, but I'm trying to support them at the same time here. So that said, now the last point that I wanted to make, and by the way, Amy, I appreciate your comment that you would take them back and waive the restocking fee. Actually, there are 2 other points I want to make. Not only, and this next point that I want to make doesn't appear to be addressed in the briefing note, but staff is actually committing to more than just receiving these articles, these machines, if I can call them that, and distributing them, because we also have a role to play in monitoring the program that you're rolling out with this, Amy. So what exactly is my staff's responsibility to the project itself, to this pilot project? Because I know that it's not just a simple question of distributing these units. You want the data. How many liters did each person put in, and when did they put it in, and how much actual food waste was recycled during the pilot term. So would you just outline what the staff's responsibility are for that aspect of the pilot project?
Yes, thank you for your question. We estimate that the staff's time for this pilot project is about 10 to 15 hours. So it's not a lot. In the beginning, there's a registration. We can create that form for you as well. We already have our marketing efforts and all of our flyers set out. So your staff simply has to post it on social media or send it out to newsletters through emails or something. The only other part that requires some sort of labor work is the distribution. So you would need staff to be on site to receive the shipment as well as distribute the shipment. But we can take care of registration. We can take care of creating efforts as well as the end survey. So we provide the survey at the end through a link on SurveyMonkey. So we deal with all of the data. We do require a report from you at the end, but we can compile all the data we received from the residents and send you like a summary file to your staff, and they could create a report from then. So in the beginning of the pilot project, there's a little bit of work there and then a little bit of work at the end, but during, all you need is probably just one staff checking their email and just make sure that all the emails are going through the right one for customer service support. If they have issues with their food cycler, they just send it over to us and we'll take care of that as well.
Okay, and one final question, and I see Councillor Hunter wants in again, but one final question, and I don't mind saying that I'm a bit dubious about us penetrating the market to the extent of getting rid of or placing 100 of these units. My sense is that we will end up shipping them back, and I assume that the shipping back is at our expense. What period of time would you say we should allow to determine whether or not the 100 sales is going to take place? If I recall correctly from your earlier presentation, your pilot project runs from a certain date to a certain date. So there would be no point of us selling them after that date as far as your pilot project is concerned.
So thank you for your comment. The starting date for the pilot project can begin anytime you'd like. We've had some municipalities who had residents start maybe 2 or 3 weeks later. It's not a big problem on our end. We can just simply, as long as you keep track of the residents who have a food cycler, we can simply reach out to them, or your staff can reach out to them at the end and send them a survey. A small, difference of 2 weeks between the first person and the last person receiving the unit is not that much of an issue for us. I'm sorry, was that the only question you had?
The end time. Is the end time the same for everybody?
So it would take 12 weeks. And some municipalities have had that issue, and they've had people pick up their food cyclers a little bit later. So 2 to 3 weeks later than the starting date, but it takes 12 weeks, but there is some wiggle room there to adapt for any other residents that may not been able to pick it up on time, or they weren't aware of it, or they didn't make their decisions quickly. So it's not that much of an issue on our end.
And last question, would a purchase of 50 from our municipality suit your pilot project or not?
Excuse me?
Would a purchase of 50 units versus 100 units suit your pilot project?
They would both be a pilot project. It can be 50 or 100. I'm sorry, I'm not, I can't really hear you properly. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, questions on the floor for Councillor Hunter. You want it in again?
Just one thing, I think it's a great product as far as that goes, whether we can sell it out. But with this pilot project and you're getting a subsidy along the way, the ones that buy these units have to agree to participate in keeping all the data for you as they're using it for the 12 weeks, am I right? Well, that's part of they have to sign this agreement when they purchase it. They're going to do this.
Is that correct, Amy?
Yes, upon registration, there's simply a box for them to click to say that they will send a survey. Once they purchase the $150, it's part of their responsibility to fill out the survey. So that's also why we provide a discount, is to get data. And so that's a commitment that they would have to make.
What happens if they don't?
We don't have any means of enforcing it. We just rely on good behavior.
So it's not as simple as just buying for $100. You're actually making a commitment to the pilot project as well.
And you should.
And you should, yes.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, that's
Councillor, did you get your question? Okay. Councillor Dillabaugh, then Councillor Campbell.
yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll go as far as to, if anybody in Ward 2 wants them, I will deliver them to their door. So it won't be no work to our staff here.
You're gonna collect the check?
And I will collect the check, and I will even set something up at the hall in Johnstown if we have to.
Okay.
So,
Councillor Cameron.
Yes, question for Amy. Amy, with the unit when it's purchased, are full instructions with the unit? And what I'm particularly interested in is a comprehensive list of material that can and cannot go in the machine supplied with it.
Yes, thank you for your question. With the food cycler, there is a manual that comes with the food cycler, and we also provide with a resident guide, and there's graphics as to what you can put in the food cycler and what you can't put in the food cycler. There's also like a list where it gives you options as to how to use the soil amendment. So there's a full resident guide that also comes with the manual.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to move the recommendation as it's written.
I'll second it.
I have Councillor, Deputy Mayor Deschamps moving the recommendation as it's written, Councillor Dillabaugh seconding. Further discussion, if any? Going to call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4. I'll call the motion carried, or the resolution carried. Okay. I'm going to just be a minute here. And so now I'm on item 7D, which is the 2022 cost of living increase. Now, there is a briefing note here, and this is the cost of living increase for all full-time non-union employees, volunteer firefighters, and council members. And our bylaw requires that we recognize the November over November inflationary increase from, I think it's the owner's pension, if I've got it correct. And so that recommendation is in front of us here. However, the one thing that I would point out to council is that we have collective agreements with our unionized employees, which do not reach this level. And that is something that I think should be taken into account while we're discussing this issue here this evening. So you've all had an opportunity to read the briefing note. There is a recommendation with the briefing note. And in fact, we do have a bylaw, but there is nothing to prevent us from accepting a lower rate increase than the November over November owner's pension, which is 2.74%. So floor is open for discussion. Looking to hear some comments. And I have Councillor Cameron on the list.
Yes.
Anybody else after Councillor Cameron? Okay, Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to I'm assuming the treasurer or CAO. With our collective agreement, once that is passed, does non-salaried staff not get the same benefits and increases as the we'll say the contract is? And if that's not so, when did that change? Because I thought it was.
Okay, so I'm going to answer that. And Mr. CAO, if you will correct me if I'm wrong. The short answer to the question is no. We are not entitled, either as council or non-unionized staff. We are not entitled to the same increase as provided in the unionized collective agreement. We get our authorization for increases from the bylaw, which specifies that we will be guided by the OMER's annual inflation increase November over November. Is that correct, Mr. CAO?
So through the chair, that is correct. The bylaw for the non-union personnel is bylaw 2015-22. So I can't speak prior to 2015-22, but since 2015, it has been in place with respect to the owners.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, looking for other speakers here. My apologies to Mr. Robertson sitting there. I didn't get you in on the food waste, and you didn't stick your hand up.
I really didn't have any comment on it, but I, you know,
I don't want to go back. I just want to
No, no,
apologize.
no.
Okay, Counselor Hunter, did you have your hand up here?
Yeah. Well, I see the way the inflation happened to jump this year. Yes, it is higher than what this year's increase was per union, but there's years where the union contract is higher than what the cost of living is, and there's years the cost of living is higher than what the union contract is. But I think if we go over a 10-year period, it balances out awful close to what it comes in. So I think this was a policy set a number of years ago, and we dealt with it with comments on it during negotiations, and we come to what the union and us agreed was a satisfactory contract. So I think this was what was agreed with staff as a satisfactory agreement with them a number of years ago. So I think if we change it, we're backing down on what we agreed to do for staff. So
Any other discussion? No other discussion. The chair's looking for direction here. We have a recommendation on the page. Chair's looking for direction, mover and a seconder.
I'll move it.
Councillor Hunter moving. Does he have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Robertson seconding. Motion is on the floor. Further discussion, or I'm going to call a question. Seeing no hands, about to call a question. Those in favor?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on. I'm at item 7E, which is the clerk's 2021 year-end review. And I always look forward to this report. And I'm going to ahead of time comment and congratulate the clerk. I had no idea that we were this busy, and thank you very much for the support that the staff has provided throughout the year. This is a very extensive 5-page report, and I just want to thank you for it. The chair's open for discussion. I can't believe the number of items that you captured here. Comments?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, yeah, sure. Just to all staff, from intergovernmental relation to HR to EPDEV, recreation, administration, you know, the 5 pages show exactly how busy of a township we are and how fantastic a job that this staff and all of the workers that work for the staff or for the township have done in such a difficult year. It's been, you know, as a small business owner, I understand exactly how difficult the last 2 years have been, and that staff pulled this much stuff off, maintained the level of service. It's just to be highly commended. So well done. The report's great as well, but well done to see all of this put together in one place. Good job.
Further additional comments, Councillor Hunter?
I'd just like to echo our deputy mayor's comment, but I'd like also add in there that this year's budget's coming to a conclusion. It looks like it's going to be well within our range. But this year's budget, when we set it, we knew we were in a pandemic, and we knew we had things to deal with. Staff knew they had things to deal with. Last year's budget, we didn't know we were in a pandemic. We set a budget when we thought everything was growing great in the township. We were moving ahead. Lots of building was taking place. Industry was moving ahead. It looked like, if anything, we had a bit of a slush fund there that we could spend a little bit more deal. All of a sudden, that revenue got slashed drastically, especially in recreation. The budget was just taken out from underneath them. And they still managed to, at the end of the year, we still come in with a surplus. And I think that's something that you can't say enough about staff, because they had to really buckle down and figure out a way to, how do you deal with like recreation, losing a couple $100,000 in revenue out of one arena, and bring that arena in, and it still comes in with what money we had left to deal with. Finance had to work around budgets and try to move money and allocate back and forth to try to get things balanced out, file for grants to try to get grants, which our CEO and clerk and treasurer, I think, did a super job of getting us qualified for grants and helping us out along the way. So I just can't say enough to this. You supported council, and more than that, you supported our ratepayers. And I know there's a lot of hours put in that we never got billed for along the way. There's a lot of hours spent at home, I'm sure, where CEO and treasurer and clerk thinking, probably sitting at home at the table figuring out what can I do different to maybe make this work. So I think they just deserve a great round of it.
Here. And Councillor Cameron.
Yes, yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very good report, and I just want to comment on what it doesn't tell us. It doesn't tell us about the day-to-day activities in their offices. It doesn't tell us the day-to-day activities on the telephone with either an irate or a good ratepayer, and it doesn't, as Councillor Hunter alluded to, the midnight oil that was burned also. And I think this is a very, very detailed, fine report. Thank you so much for it.
And Councillor Dilwell.
And I will echo that too. I know some of you people personally know that you guys are working at night, not here, but at home. I do know that for a fact. So the report was excellent. And Mr. Cameron says, I know you get a lot of ratepayers. Some are nice to you, some aren't, and you still handle them with dignity and respect. And we're sure appreciate the staff and what you've done for us this year. Thanks again.
Okay, further additional comments? Now, the briefing note that comes with this year-end review doesn't include a recommendation, but I think it would be remiss of us not to acknowledge by resolution the fact that this report was received and reviewed with thanks to staff. And so I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder to receive this report from the clerk with thanks and recognition to staff. And I have Deputy Mayor Deschamps moving, and I have Councillor Cameron seconding, and I hope the staff has captured the intent of the resolution. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, so I'm moving now then to item number 7F on the agenda, which is the 2021 disposal of surplus goods. There is a follow-up report here. And as you can see from the follow-up report, we sold a few things for nothing, but we made a few nickels and dimes here. Interesting though, the 2001 Peterbilt tandem truck, $24,000. So that was interesting. And again, I don't see a recommendation or a resolution coming from this. But again, I think I would like to see that this follow-up report be received. If there's even if there's no other discussion. But I'm opening the floor for discussion first. Discussion if any.
I'm surprised, seriously.
Okay, what Councillor surprised? Councillor Cameron, you wanted in.
Well, Mr. Mayor, this is just the fair market value at auction. And we certainly got it. I'm very, very pleased with the 24,000. You know, and yes, some of the things that went for $8 or whatever, okay, that was $8 we didn't have before we went to auction. And we do have it now. And I think, here we are, $7,322 for the old grader. Well, good, good.
Counselor Hunter.
No, I just think that we just, there's a point that going to auction, we do a lot better than going to tender because the truck that 1-ton truck that we got $2,300 for, as I recall, one lever 1/2 ton and 3/4 ton trucks or so, we got $150 for a tender price, so I think it just proves that as a Councilor Cameron said, it's fair market value. Went to auction and we know that's what everybody's seen it, had a chance to bid on it, that's what we got for it, so.
Market will bear.
Okay, I think I'm gonna ask for more. Did you-
I'll move No, but I'll move to.
Okay, so
To receive
Deputy
the
Mayor
report.
moves that we receive the report. Does he have a second?
I'll second.
And Councillor Dillabaugh seconds, just that the report be received with thanks. Those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, now I'm on item number 7G, which is the gravel roads needs study, request for proposals, RFPs. And we have a briefing note here. And interesting to see that we had 5 companies bid to do this work and responded to our request for proposals. And interesting to see the range, all the way from $7,045 to $25,000, quite a range. I'm surprised at the range. Mr. Grant, can you give us some sort of an indication, and maybe you're going to refer it to the Director of Operations, that's up to you, but when I see such a wide variance in the responses, was the request for proposals, was it tight enough to justify this wide range?
Through the chair, I would say upon review, I would say that the RFP was tight enough.
Okay, so we have a motion, and Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to staff. In the financial considerations part, the estimated cost of the geotech survey is $25K. So the $25K would be in addition to what's already quoted there, and that's how we get to the 35 that the pre-budget approval is for.
Through the chair, that is correct.
So just for my own clarity again, Mr. Mayor, through you back to the CEO again. So like the last one on it, that's 25,440. It would be another 25 plus 10%. Whatever the name of the fee is, I can't think of it off my head, but if we were to go with that one, it'd be 55,440 would be it, plus an extra 10% contingency.
So through the chair, that is correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes,
Just like
all firms knew in advance that the geotech was not included.
They all knew that.
They all-
Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to staff. Exactly what is this study going to tell us?
So through the chair, if you recall, upon earlier in the year with respect to the grader purchase, there was one of the top priorities of council to look at conversion of some of those gravel roads to either surface treatment or asphalt. So this is going to assess the gravel segments that we have within the township, and assess which are the best candidates for what type of upgrade, and get a plan together for over the next 5 years to start to convert probably, I believe we had looked about 20 to 25 kilometers of gravel road.
Yes, thank you. And just to follow up to that, I'm sure we know as staff knows what roads have to be done. However, as Councillor Hunter constantly reminds us that some of these roads have to have extra bedding put in and extra gravel put in and deeper things like that. Is that what this report is going to tell us as well?
Through the chair, that is correct. It should tell us what upgrades are going to be required with respect to base, drainage, those aspects, so that we can get a reasonable cost estimate with respect to what it would be to bring that up to either surface or asphalt, depending on what the traffic is and what type of traffic is on there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have.
Councillor Hunter.
I think basically what, in my opinion, what this survey is going to do for us is whatever council and whatever group won't be this council, because they're going to be doing it, but the next council or the council after that is doing it. They're going to have a information here that when they build a road, we're not going to be rebuilding it again 2 years later because it wasn't properly based, wasn't properly drained. I think this has happened too many times over the years in the township that we've put roads down and they haven't held because there hasn't been the proper base or there hasn't been the proper drainage to them. So it's money spent that seems to be wasted money to some people because you just get paper and you don't get a road fixed. But when you do fix the road, then the road's going to stay for 20 years instead of being have to be rebuilt 4 or 5 years later. So,
Deputy Mayor.
Just for my own clarification, thanks, Mr. Mayor, again, through you back to the CAO. Am I wrong in thinking that we're getting a heck of a lot for $7,045, 64 kilometers worth of roads with we're gonna find out how much we need to widen the roads, how much depth we need to do and drainage we need to fix? Like, am I wrong in thinking that that's a heck of a lot of report for $7,000?
So through the chair, there's a number of we already have the road need study, so they'll be utilizing that data in that platform to do that assessment. But really, what will be conducted is most likely in the spring, where it's probably the best time to assess the road for in worst case conditions. And those roads that are deemed to be what we would consider in pretty good shape in the spring would rise up with respect to higher on the priority list of the first 5-year plan. So we're going to focus a lot of the geotech investigation on those roads that look like they would be reasonably good candidates to start the process. We're not going to get geotechnical done on 64 kilometers of road. We're going to get geotechnical done on those kilometers of road that we would work into that next 5-year plan.
Can I?
Yeah,
follow up?
you can follow up. I think I know where you're going.
So the follow-up would go something like this. In other words, the award of this contract, we're not starting with a blank sheet, clean sheet of paper. We're starting with existing data that we already have accumulated over a period of at least one study. And we're pointing this firm in a certain direction on certain roads. Is that a way of conceiving this?
Reasonable through the chair to say that. We certainly want
More detail.
We want more detail on certain roads for sure, but I think we want another set of eyes on all of those roads.
Well, that's the other thing, because now it's a different set of eyes than the original study.
Correct.
Right. Fair enough. Did you want in again, Councilor?
No, I just-
And do I see anybody over here? Councilor Hunter.
comment for you, the CEO, on the difference in the tender price here too. There's a lot of that not in corporate knowledge of your Galway, that they did a lot of work for the township over the years. They probably have a lot of data base that a company that hasn't worked for us would have to gather.
Through the chair, I think it certainly helps that Greer Galloway has done some projects for us in the past, and the familiarities for sure.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I see a recommendation in front of me. Chair's looking for direction here.
I will move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Do you have a second? Okay, I have Councillor Dillabaugh seconded. And the recommendation is that the committee recommend that council award the gravel roads needs study contract to Greer Galloway Group and gives pre-budget approval to an upset limit of $35,000 in the Public Works Department budget. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Okay, now I'm at item number 7H, which we get to the curbside collection of recyclables and solid waste. Again, a request for proposals, and amazing what we see here. So I think, and view of the fact that this is such a major contract, I'm going to let the CAO make the introductions here. If you would, sir.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. So we went out for a tender on November 3rd, and what our current contract expires at the end of February 2022. And if you recall that our Blue Box transition date is February 2025. So it's about a 3-year window. So we tendered for a 3-year contract with respect to both solid waste and recyclables. And so we went out, I believe, to about 6 or 7 firms, and we did receive 4 responses back. I would say of the 4 responses, they would all be good and capable to complete the work. I would say that with respect to overall proposal in detail, that the Mterra group was the strongest, with HGC management a close second, and the pricing received by HGC management is within our current sort of annual costs with respect to the solid waste, the curbside solid waste and recyclables. So all in all, I think it's a reasonably good response.
So just for clarification, just so that I make sure that I've got this understood properly in my head. The solid waste is to be collected weekly, right?
Correct.
And the recyclables are to be collected alternate weekly, the way we do now.
Correct.
All right. So when they bid, so when Mterra, for example, bids year 1 at $355 for the solid waste on a weekly basis, plus $165,440 for the recyclables on an alternate weekly basis. Is that correct? So I have to add the 2 numbers?
That is correct.
For year 1, and then all the way down the chart, I add the 2 numbers.
Correct.
Okay, that's the way I thought it went. I just want to make sure I had that clear. Now, why is it then that Waste Connections Inc. did not bid the alternate weekly for the recyclables? Or is that because it's all included in the annual cost line? What is, I don't understand why the NAs are there. So
the previous contract that was awarded, I believe at that time, was BFI, or Progressive Waste Solutions. Their bid, they did it similar in that response, where it just sort of was under the waste and included the recyclable. However, in this particular one, they did not detail that out to any level of confidence at this time that the recycling is included. But the majority of their submission speaks to the collection of recyclables.
Okay, so did you discard them because they didn't complete that column as per the request?
They were not discarded, but they were not certainly from the independent reviews of staff members. They were not deemed to be the successful.
Okay, but that was mainly because of, well, it wouldn't be because of price though, would it?
Not solely on price, no.
Not solely on price. Okay, so the chair's open for discussion here, looking for direction. So Councillor Cameron and then Councillor Dillabaugh. So Councillor Cameron first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to staff. I'm not familiar with the company HGC. Who are they and where are they located?
So through the chair, I believe they've been in existence since 1989, and they're based out of the Cornwall area.
Okay, so they would be coming all the way from Cornwall to the area, and then they're contracted with Moose Creek as well.
That is correct.
So then they would be hauling it back to Moose Creek.
Yeah, so if I may through the chair, yeah, so what their proposal is, they would have a unit that would collect on Monday. And it would go, that unit would go back to their recycling facility in Cornwall, would unload the recycling on Monday. And Tuesday, that unit would go to Moose Creek to unload the solid waste, and another, a different unit would do the Tuesday run.
Thank you for that explanation. I just have another question here.
Can we just capture one thing first?
Go ahead, sir.
So then, does the unit goes along the road not do both at the same time?
They do.
Okay, so it's similar to what we have right now.
Basically identical. I think this particular, the trucks that they're proposing are a little bit larger than our current unit.
Okay, but both are done at the same time.
They're a 60-40 split, if I'm not
60-40, sorry.
Yes. Okay, and then I'd like to go just to page 60, where it speaks of the tender not including the township bin collection. So it looks to me like it's going to be an additional 25,000 for 400. None of the other companies had been included in their costs.
So through the chair, the bin collection was not included as part of this RF.
Thank you. Okay, now, how many bins does the township actually have that needs to be picked up?
Through the chair, I'll maybe defer to the director of operations.
Believe there's 9.
Okay, but there's no business. We're not picking up business bins and things like that, are we?
No,
These are strictly township
it
bins?
would be strictly township facility bins.
Okay. And my last question, Mr. Mayor, is that any of the other pricing, did it include green waste?
Through the chair, no, we did not include that within the proposal.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Dillabaugh?
Oh, yeah, my question was the HGC. I never heard of them, and you know, obviously you said that they're well recommended and equipped, not gonna have breakdowns, or I mean, we all can have breakdowns, I realize that, but there's not a bunch of junk, I guess.
Through their proposal, and they are actually right now the one providing service in South Dundas.
I'm sorry?
They're providing curbside collection service in South Dundas right now as well.
Councillor Hunter?
Well, I just think that it's,
Follow up.
it looks like we're gonna save taxpayers a few dollars on this contract, and hopefully as I brought up a number of times, our present contractor hasn't really been giving us great service lately. As I mentioned before, it seems every holiday Monday, whoever's getting picked up on Monday doesn't get picked up that day. It seems to be the trucks always seem to be broke down, so I'm quite happy to be changing suppliers.
You know, Councillor Cameron wants to follow up, and I'm just gonna get to that in a minute, but before I do that, just a quick question. We've got 4 bids in front of us, one of which is not compliant with what was requested. I'm just interested, and I'll address it to the CAO, maybe to the Director of Operations. I'm interested that we didn't see a response from Limerick Environmental. They seem to be getting quite active, and also from Tomlinson Group. They seem to be getting quite active. Now, were they contacted with regard to this RFP? That's the first question, and well, let's see where that leads.
So through the chair, I'll have the Director of Operations confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that both Limerick and Tomlinson were invited with respect to the proposal.
So to the Director.
I'm not sure the other groups off the top of my head, but it was also listed on the website. And the website has been monitored over the last several RFPs from a group that sends out to individual contractors, a larger group we're getting for some of the RFPs, companies we haven't heard of before, or so there's a group of individuals that are offering that service out to contractors as well. So it goes out to a lot more than what we just issued.
Yeah, but address my specific question, which was Limerick and Tomlinson.
I believe Tomlinson was, I'd have to check on Limerick.
And what about Limerick?
I would have to check on them.
I'm really interested to know if we've reached out as broadly as we should have, or as we could have.
So through the chair, we certainly reached out as broadly as we could obtain within Eastern Ontario. So, you know, I'm not going to say 100% that Limerick and Tomlinson were personally invited to submit, but I would say that I'm like 99% sure that they were invited personally to participate.
That they knew about.
They certainly did.
Oh, okay. That's all I'm concerned, is that they knew about.
I just can't say 100%, but I'm extremely confident.
Okay. Okay, follow up there, and then Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to jump on Councillor Hunter's mention that we do have breakdowns, and we've also in the village of Cardinal, we've also had erratic pickup times. I think just before 7:30, they were at my door the other day when normally it's around 8:15. But anyway, besides that, when they do have breakdowns, and we have had a few, I think at one time through Councillor Hunter, we had discussed something along the line of, in the contract, do we have a breakdown policy where they may have to pay us because their equipment broke down and we're not getting the service. Has that been considered for this contract? Or can it be?
So through the chair, the contract agreement will be developed by legal, and we will look to have a strong contract in place.
That's good enough for me, thank you.
And yes,
Thank you. Yeah, through you, back to the CEO, kind of going along the same line with the contract. From my recollection, we had some issues with the last contract. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it required us to pay substantially more. When I see a number like this, so substantially lower than the others, I wonder if we find ourselves in that position again. It's almost like too good of a price compared to the other three to be true. Just a comment or an observation, I guess. And I forget what the issue was with the last contract and why it had to be adjusted.
Do you want to jump in
So
here?
through the chair, I won't get into extensive detail, but what did happen was with respect to a 5% and 10% increase over the last 2 years. Due to some additional surcharges and costs that actually were placed into the as an additional charge that was not caught right off the bat. And, we did negotiate and update that contract, but we'll certainly have a stronger contract in place for this term.
Okay, I'm gonna get Counselor Hunter here, but before I go to Counselor Hunter, one question from me. Can this be, if this is approved, will this be a seamless transition for our residents? In other words, will the schedules be the same? That's the first question. And then one thing that we all rely on is that yearly chart that we get. And I've already seen my yearly chart for 2022. I don't know whether that's produced in this office or in the office of the contractor. I see the clerk nodding her head. Is it produced in this office? It is. All right. So from that point of view, will this be a seamless transition for the residents?
So
Same schedule?
So through the chair, yes, the HGC management is not proposing any change to the current routes with respect that the routes will be done Monday as they are, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, with that same part. And certainly one of the reasons why we wanted to get this in front of committee in December, passed by council in December, is to make sure that we have a good communication and marketing plan in advance and make sure that we have as much as we possibly can have in place to ensure a smooth transition.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hunter.
Just a question through you, CEO. The increases we had in that contract, is that not due to us extending the contract too? Did we not extend it for 2 years from what the original contract was?
Through the chair, no, this current contract that we're in was a 7-year contract. I believe it started in 2015. So I think part of the concern was with that 7-year contract that some additional costs had arisen with respect to I believe it was the carbon tax and a couple other items that they had indicated was costing them more than they would have originally planned to absorb.
I thought we went back to them when we first got the thing about the recycling taking place and they agreed to extend their contract from 5 years to 7 years.
Through the chair, I am no, I don't recall that happening.
A follow-up, or are we ready to move?
Just a comment.
Okay.
With the decrease, if this is passed, I would certainly hope we don't see a requisition for price of beverage bags to go up.
Won't go down.
No, but they won't go down. I like the way you got that in there quickly.
We know that.
Okay, the chair is looking for direction here. I sense that the discussion is coming to an end. Chair is looking for direction here.
I would do it for the issue.
Okay, I have Councillor Hunter moving and Councillor Cameron seconding. Is there any further discussion? I'm about to call a question on the motion before the chair. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And so now I'm at item number 7I, which is the recreation fee schedule bylaw update. And there's an extensive briefing note here. with a number of, let me call them red line adjustments. Is that a fair way of describing it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, red line adjustments. Okay, so the chair is open for discussion and the facilities manager is here to answer any questions, and we do have a recommendation in front of us. Chair is open for discussion. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Recreation Director. So swimming lessons are going up $5. Day camp is going up $15. Why is the reason for going up $15 on day camp?
Through the chair to Councillor Cameron, well, the one portion of it is the day camp includes the swimming lessons. And then we also have other costs incorporated through the day camp, including the increase in minimum wage that has gone up over the last couple of years. And we have stayed at the $185 for a number of years, going back, I think, 6 years now. And thought that it was still not a large increase, and certainly is still less than what other areas are charging for summer camp programs. So we thought it was in our best interest to put a small increase in there.
Would one of the reasons for the increase be the fact that this year or this past year, because of situations with staffing, we were paying for the certifications that the lifeguards had to take? Is that going to be again this in the future, or was that just a one-off situation?
So through the chair to Councillor Cameron, no, these figures aren't based on what we did last year. These are based on costs that are incurred through the Life Saving Society, that their increases. The fact that we subsidized the majority of our lifeguards last year was a decision that was made by council at the time, and is not necessarily something that will go through on a year-to-year basis.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Mayor, could you come back to me, please? I think I do have another question, but I'd like to you come back to me on that.
Absolutely. Councillor Dilwell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, to the facility manager, when it says here that rice rentals remain the same in townships in line with other municipalities. When you say municipalities, are we talking local municipalities like North Grenville, South Dundas, etc.?
Through the chair to Councillor Dillenbaugh, yes, that is correct. City of Rockville as well.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor, and then Councillor Hunter, you getting in here? Deputy Mayor first.
Just picking up on that through the mayor to Mr. Spencer. Mike, the prime time goes from $153.30 to $156.37, which $3 increase, pretty small. So that puts us. My question would be that puts us in line with Brockville, Kempville, and say Morrisburg, something like that.
Chair, through the chair to the deputy mayor, I'd say that would put us in the mid-pack. We're not the high, we're not the low.
We're not the low with that. That was my.
The low would be South Dundas.
Okay, that was more my question. And then one follow-up if I can to that one.
Absolutely.
Is it did you apply a percentage to it? Like how'd you come up with 156.37?
Yes, that's, sorry, it's 2%.
It's 2%. That's what I had on my phone when I figured it out, but I just wanted to make sure, and that's clear all the way through.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Except for the
Day camp.
the day camp.
Yeah. Okay.
The ice rental rates, sure, the ice rental rates are 2% across the board.
2% across the board. Okay, thank you.
And I'm going to come, Councillor Cameron, Mr. Robertson, do you want in?
I think those are reasonable increases. I don't think there's anything here that's off the mark.
Thank you. Councillor Hunter, do you want in?
I just don't know, Mr. Robinson, reasonable increases on the low end, I think.
Oh, we're looking for more?
Well,
We could get more.
2.74 cost of inflation last year,
Yeah.
cost of inflation this year is already running around 5%, so you can, we're likely gonna have a minimum wage hike like before the year's out, so that's already being spent, so I don't know. They're losing a lot of money in recreation every year, so.
So let me just rephrase that back to the facilities manager, director, or manager of facilities. Did your calculations here take into account that the minimum wage is rising to $15 on, what is it, January the 1st? Or do we have pay at the minimum wage level?
Through the chair to the chair. No, the cost on the 2%, typically, if we go back through the years, I have come to the board with higher percentages and they've always been knocked down. So, in fairness, I started at 2. I guess I could have given you, a 2 or 3 and a 4% with those increases. But in fairness to the minor hockey associations that are having to deal with that, it's a slight increase, but it's still an increase, something that they haven't seen in a number of years. So I agree with Councillor Hunter. We could put it up more, but I chose 2% because in the past that's typically what we have done.
Okay, so I've got to come back to Councillor Cameron, but I'm going to get Deputy Mayor in first.
First, no, you go first.
And just going back into that conversation, I think it's worth noting that in the next, I don't think it'll be next season, but the season after that, we will have another arena that we'll be in direct competition with for ice time. We certainly don't want to be scaring off our users and ending up with less users as that new arena comes online. So I don't want to get too carried away with the increases.
Okay, good comment, Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you. Again, through you to the Recreation Director, and I just wanted to draw your attention to page 65, and it's under Other, and I'm pleased to see that the Cardinal Pavilion is not included in any increase. That will remain in the status quo. I'm sure.
As a free, yes, that is correct.
Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Okay, I sense the discussion is coming to an end here. The chair's got a recommendation as part of the briefing note. Chair's looking for direction here.
I'll second.
Okay. Let's have a look here. Where did it go?
Page 62, Mr. Mayor.
Where is it? Page 62?
The committee
As
recommends
the council approves the updated, there it is. Sorry, so who's moving? Deputy Mayor Deschamps is moving, and who's your second? Councillor Gillivon. All right, the motion is on the floor. Further discussion, Finney? Hearing none, calling the question. Those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, so now we're moving on to the agreement with Greenfield Global, item 7J. We've discussed this before, and I guess this, what we have in front of us is the amendment to the agreement that we already have in place with Greenfield Global. And as we know, we've come to an agreement with them to work with them to increase the capacity of that low lift line comes out of the river. So the briefing note is here and the agreement is in front of you. Chair is open for discussion.
I think we've, if I may, through the mayor, I think we've at least from my memory, we've exhausted this one pretty good already. I'm happy to move the recommendation as it's written. that this discussion's happened more than once, so.
I will second that.
And Councillor Cameron seconding, you're right, it has. And so the recommendation is that the committee recommends that council approve and authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute the agreement to the design, build, finance, operate, and maintain agreement with Greenfield Global Inc. And that's an agreement that's been in place since 2008. And we're just upgrading it. All right, so if there's no further discussion, I'm gonna call the question on this. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Okay, that takes us there. And maybe just to the CAO, we've got some cost estimates here from WSP, and I'm not going to go into those in any detail, but can you tell us where the project stands at this point? And I kind of lost track of where we were after the basic agreement was put in place, and it became basically an operational thing for staff. But my main concern is, have the necessary pumps been ordered yet?
Through the chair, I expect you to get that confirmed in the next couple of days.
We're getting close, in other words.
I do anticipate that they will be by the end of the week. It's my understanding. If they haven't already been done, but I have not received the response back on my on the latest inquiry.
I know Greenfield may not have actually issued the purchase orders, but I suspect from the work that WSP has done, the suppliers are well aware of the fact that the order will be coming. Yeah. Okay, so did I call the question on that?
Yes.
Yes, I did. Okay, so that pretty well gets us to the end of the action and information items. And so now I'm on item number 8, which is council inquiries or notices of motion. And does anyone have anything to bring up there?
Mr. Mayor, I have one little, well, not little, but I have a problem on Sophia Street. We've tried speed signs, we've tried the police, and we're still getting lots and lots of complaints. And fast drivers up on Sophia Street. I'm looking for suggestions to try to
We put speed
slow
bumps
down
there.
there
We
before.
put a stop sign in.
Yeah, put stop signs, but still doesn't do it.
Did we put speed bumps?
No, we had speed bumps for the summertime up at the park, which worked great. But I'm looking for help. Really am looking for help here before someone gets actually hurt, hit. Especially in the evening when people want to go out for a walk and a start. Yeah, I had one person call me the other day, she jumped in the ditch. So it's just a matter of time before something's happening. I just need some kind of help, some kind of support here.
Well, let's just see what, this is the first time I've heard of this, that I can recall.
It's been an issue. As you know, before we put speed, like I said, signs up, OPP.
So to the clerk, getting comments on the phones?
Through the chair, I have not received anything through bylaw enforcement in regards to speeding concerns that have been received by the public.
CAO comments?
Mr. Chair, I have not. I know that this item seems to make its way back around. I know on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
We put the speed and traffic devices up.
Police.
We've touched base with OPP, and I believe that Councillor Cameron is correct. At one of the intersections partway up, we installed a stop sign to hopefully curb that speed.
So next question is, are those 2 traffic monitors, are they available to go to this location?
Through the chair, I would say not immediately, but they certainly we can certainly put that on the list to have those installed there to monitor once again.
But we've been down that road too.
Yeah, through the chair, and I can't, it's difficult to say right off the top, but I want to say that the majority of the users are not speeding in that area. I anticipate that it's a smaller percentage that's causing the problem.
Okay, so the next question is, do we have speed bumps available that we can? I know we generally try to remove speed bumps from the streets in the winter season because of the plows, but do we not have a movable speed bump that can be put in different places? I mean, you have to be careful where you put them, because if people are not aware of them, they can really do some damage, and then we can be liable for the damage. So, I mean, do we have a movable speed bump that we can put up on when the, you know, maybe for a week at a time when the weather is great and the streets are not, and plows are not out, and remove it before a storm? Do we have that type of facility available?
So through the chair, we do have a couple like removable speed bumps, and they're typically used on the Sutton Drive with respect to that in the summertime. Part of the difficulty with installing those removable speed bumps in the wintertime is number one, in order to secure them, you're starting to pound through the asphalt. And then if we're making holes in the asphalt and then removing them, and then it's a little easier in the summertime where you can do those patches where it's warmer weather. Simply like from an operational standpoint of plowing, it can be a real pain, right, with respect to one of those speed bumps in there. You do a fair bit of damage to the road if they don't get stopped in sufficient time, right, to lift the blade. So,
Anybody else want to weigh in here?
I don't know what the process is in establishing them, but quite a few of the cities are going to use photo radar cameras, so.
We have the cameras, we just don't, or excuse me, we have the devices, but we don't have power we don't have really power of enforcement. We don't have power of electronic enforcement, but I always find that those devices do tend to slow people down. It may be only for the period of time that the device is up, but
It's a Band-Aid fix, but you're right, it does slow down.
it's the camera.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through our liaison with the LPP, can we not request they pay a little more attention down there?
And we've had that, but it's, again,
Well, we're not going to solve the problem here tonight.
No. I like your idea. Is there any way we can put up something like that? Like
Pass by on establish the rates.
you know, if you get a speed and or go through a stop sign or whatever, you get a ticket on it.
Well, that's just not allowed. Problems.
Well, the city of Ottawa does it.
Do they?
Geez, I got two.
Hang on one second. Is it permissible?
so through the chair, I need to do a little bit more research with respect to the steps that would be required to look at establishing something like that.
Okay, and then you get the whole question of radar enforcement.
Correct. I think that there are some other problems that arise with it, but we can certainly do some additional research if that's something that
Well, now,
committee's
you know,
interested in.
Okay, so before we go down this road, which is a dangerous road in my opinion, probably more dangerous than a bunch of speeders. How much time do you want staff to spend on something like this?
That's the trouble. We spent, I mean, we sort of like spinning our wheels, if I like to say it. I mean, we've had those those speed things up, we get our reports, OPP, they do come there, they do sit there. And then it's over, not, you know, if there's some way of slowing that. So, yeah, it's a matter, I know Mr. Fair's time and so on, but someone's gonna get hurt.
Well,
A human body.
Counselor, you can't, you know, you get complaints from the public constantly, and I understand the issue. But when we put the devices up and we find out that the actual non-compliance rate is very, very small. I mean, I'm not saying that there are not speeders there, we know that there are. But when you know that the non-compliance is very, very small, and the devices show us that. I mean,
But it's not low.
well, let's put the devices up again. How soon do you think we can get the devices up again? Are they being used someplace else right now?
So we'll have to confirm with the director of operations to see with respect to timing.
And I think it's gonna be a week or so at least. They have to do some reprogramming on it, and then they can be sent. We do have the older one that we could possibly put up right away.
Sorry?
We have one older unit that we could possibly put up right away and have to check the status.
Okay, so are our devices the latest generation of those devices?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so you say we have to reprogram? What's the issue there?
We had to replace the units because there was two that were stolen.
Yes, and we replaced those units.
Yes, and we just got them in just last week.
We've had two stolen,
Yes,
because I was only aware of one.
yeah, there was a second one stolen this year.
Oh, okay.
There is like I said, there's an older unit, but I'm not sure if the batteries and everything's on that one. It's not as reliable.
Okay. Well, let's try that and see where we get. I mean, that's something. I don't know whether it's gonna work or not, but I don't know what, I mean. I don't know the solution here. I only know the problem.
Well, the point, and you get some of the city streets in Ottawa, they're not removing those speed bumps, the permanent speed bumps that are put in, but that has to be done in the summertime.
Yeah.
You slow the speeders down, but then you get all kinds of complaints from the local residents, pump over them all the time too, so.
Yeah, I don't know if we get that much. Fix that. We're not gonna solve it today, like you said, but I just want to bring it to attention.
Okay, are there anybody else bring anything up over council inquiries or notices of motion before I bring one item forward? Councilor Hunter.
Just one in where we passed resolution last council to go pre-budget approval by sidewalk plan for Spencerville. Have we made process on that? Because the streets need to plow this morning, so.
Through the chair to the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll defer to the director of operations. He can give me an update with respect to that sidewalk plan.
Certainly, we have made an offer to purchase one. It's a 2005, it's a 9.73, the same unit that's in Cardinal. It's a little bit smaller unit, the newer units are 9.77s. They're a bigger unit, and just through going through the research and following up, we found that the holder is a much better machine than the trackless. The trackless tend to be the joint of the vehicle, the articulation is done on a pin with a brass bushing on it, whereas the holders have a ball type. So they tend to have over time go like this for older units. So we kind of tried to concentrate, contacted Emblem holder units, and they were, right out, they don't lease used vehicles, so we'd have to lease a new one. They had a return from Ottawa, and after it was all retrofit and stuff, they were looking for like $57,000 to purchase. So we found one just up in Rockland area. It's a company that does contract work for Ottawa, so they have multiple units, have their own shop and do maintenance and so forth. So after some negotiation and there was some minor points on the vehicle we wanted to get fixed up first. So we're looking at about $21,000 plus non-rebated HST.
Okay, so at this point, has you said we made an offer, has the offer been accepted?
Yes.
Okay, so offer plus acceptance, we have a contract, they're gonna deliver?
No, we'll have to arrange for delivery, but we'll either have it towed or put on a tow truck, a tilt and lift dump truck. We're just looking at the options now. It's not ready. They haven't finished all the extra work we required for it. So I'm expecting probably Wednesday or Thursday this week, we should be looking at something.
Okay, so does that answer your question, Counselor? I guess my question was, when we gave the pre-budget approval of, thought it was for 35,000.
That was the going price on previous units, or 10 years old. This is a little.
We didn't have a specific unit identified at the time of that approval.
No, it was a used unit.
Okay.
They're getting few and far between now.
Oh, yeah, imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're, anybody else? Okay, so I'm just gonna mention something, and I apologize to the CAO that I haven't brought this to his attention sooner, but you're on the committee that works with the River Route pilot project, I believe. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct.
A suggestion has come to me from a resident. Would it be possible to arrange that people can flag the bus down and stop it someplace along the route, any place along the route? Now that would require, and I remember in the old days when Colonial Coach was doing County Road 2 from Brockville to Cornwall, you could step out and flag it down as long as you knew the schedule, knew what time to be out there, and it would stop for you. Only took a minute. You stopped, you paid, you got on. And the same thing, you could get off at different places. And I'm just wondering if that isn't a mechanism that could be used to increase the ridership. I've heard talk of people have to walk a half a mile to a stop, and the bus goes right past them while they're walking. And so I'm just bringing that up, and I'm wondering if you could take that to your committee at the next meeting. Now, the key to that is that the bus must not leave its designated route stops earlier than the route time that's shown on the schedule. So if it shows leaving Ingredient Center at 6:03 in the morning, it can't leave at 5:59. It's got to stick to the schedule, because people will then depend on the schedule and be at the roadside according to their estimate of when it will reach between the two stops. So I just bring that to your attention because I know there are a lot of people that are interested in seeing this project succeed, and the only way it's going to succeed is with additional ridership. That's the end of my sermon for tonight.
No, you have it.
Praise the Lord.
Your sermon comes next.
No. I'm not going to make a mayor's report tonight.
He said it.
I'm going to item number 10 on the agenda, which is the question period, and I know that there's questions waiting, so through the chair.
I'm new to this, so I just have a question about the lighting on my street. About Queen Street, which changes to Charlotte Street halfway up. It's a dead end street. About 20 years ago, there was a petition that was taken up to put street lights on Frederick Street, Queen Street. Well, the lights got put up on Frederick Street, but we didn't see any lights.
On Queen.
On Queen. I think we waited long enough, like 20 years for, and it's a safety issue because it's very black up there where I live. And I know halfway down the road, the lighting is very good from the customs, but that does not help us at our end.
The far end.
The far end. And to me, like, insurance companies would think that was a betterment for me because it's a well-lit street. So I was just wondering what process I need to get this done. Do I have to submit a proposal? What do I have to do to get this done? I would only like, from the customs, 6 lights put up.
from the customs area north.
Yes,
Okay, all right, so the process started here, you've made your pitch. That's a good point. Now, let me put some background to this, because when I first got on council in 2006, I had quite a number of people that came and wanted lights, and I can't remember whether yours was one of them or not. And during that first couple of years, we managed to get 2 or 3 put up at various intersections during the year. And then there seemed to be some sort of a policy developed that we would only place them at intersections. But I'm just going to ask if either the CAO or the clerk can help me out there, because this request that we're receiving tonight is certainly not where there's an intersection. So can you tell me just exactly what the policy is, or does anybody recall or remember? It's a while since we put up some lights, I think, some new lights.
So through the chair, I can certainly say that the policy speaks to priority at intersections, and the locations that we have put up streetlights in the last couple of years. There was one place at the corner of Commerce Drive in County Road 2, which didn't have a street light, and I believe there were a couple intersections in Johnstown that street lights had been placed. So, but I would say that the current budget with respect to streetlights is likely about 2 to 3, because it depends on whether there's an existing pole that we can utilize to have the streetlight arm installed, or if we're talking about installing a pole and in the whole arm.
Okay, so that's one consideration. I see Deputy Mayor wants to just give us 1 second there, and we'll just carry this discussion a little bit further. So Deputy Mayor.
So mine would be to actually defer the discussion. So I think that this, discussion probably is best to have a report about Johnstown streetlights in front of us, and put it on a future committee discussion, and make sure that we know what exactly budget we have to approve or not for adding those. It would make sense to have all of the information in front of us. So to me, it would be move it to a future committee, have a staff report prepared for that discussion, and know what the existing or what the needed budget would be for that discussion. It's not a question period discussion.
No, it's not a question period discussion. I'm just trying to clarify for the speaker where we are with the issue. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, just a question to the lady.
Linda Anderson.
Yes, thank you. Your area is Hydro 1?
You Hydro 1
Yes.
customer.
Yes, okay, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so your comment is noted, and during the budget discussions, it'll come up again. I know it's some time since we've done some lights, but I don't know what kind of dollars we're looking at, but that comes up as part of that'll come up as part of the budget discussion. Are there poles along that street?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions? Got another lady there?
No, I talked to Steve Delabaugh, and he's going to look into it.
Okay. All right. And so now, I think that concludes the public session of the meeting. I did explain to you ladies that we do have a closed session about personal matters about an identifiable individual, including a municipal or local board employees. And then also we have a second issue, which is the proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land. And because it's a purchase of land with money involved, it goes behind closed doors. Our reasons for going behind closed doors are limited by Section 239 of the Municipal Act, and we follow that section very closely. Now, did you want any?
Yeah, I did. I just, we sort of skipped by that, by the streetlights discussion, and I'm not sure if there was a committee consensus about doing anything about it, and I just wanted to make sure that Ms. Anderson's concern was either discussed at budget or that it was added to a future discussion, because I don't think we gave staff a recommendation or if they had any info on how to deal with that. I just want to make sure it's dealt with.
Okay, to the staff, I'm assuming that you got out of that discussion that it's going on an agenda item someplace, either at admin, finance, or at budget.
So, through the chair, I think it would be timely for discussion during budget. Probably most appropriate thing.
And can you give us latest numbers then for per light erection, per light installation?
Through the chair, yeah, we should be able to provide you a range, right?
Sorry.
Okay, so now we have a resolution to go into the closed session. Who has that resolution? Councillor Hunter.
Move myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, that the committee proceed into closed session 8:20 in order to address a matter pertaining to section 239 the personal matters of others identified in the individual, including municipal or local board employees, specifically public works. Section 239(2)(c), proposed for pending acquisition or disposal of land by the municipality or local board, specifically its land bank, infrastructure Ontario, and minutes of closed session dated November 8th, 2021.
Okay, the motion is on the floor to go into the closed session. Those in favor? Motion is carried, and we'll have a 5-minute intermission and come back in the closed session.
Myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, closed meeting of committee does now adjourn. The open meeting does now resume at 10:04 p.m.
Those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Motion is carried, and so we're out of the closed session, and I'm gonna report out from the closed session. So in the closed session, we dealt with the minutes of the closed session from November the 8th, and Councillor Dillabaugh will bring forward a motion.
Moved by myself and seconded by Council Cameron, that the committee receives and approves the closed session minutes dated November 8th, 2021.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Now, reporting further from the closed session. Council dealt with a matter under section 239(2)(b) and provided direction to staff. And then council also dealt with an issue under section 239(2)(c), specifically the Edwardsburg Land Bank, and again provided direction to the mayor and the CAO. That concludes the report out from the closed session, and now the chair is looking for the motion to adjourn.
Worthwhile noting that we extend.
Yes, and we extended the meeting while in the closed session to go past 10 o'clock. And who has the motion to adjourn?
I do. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter. The committee does now adjourn at 10:06 p.m.
It is now. Those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, motion is carried.